very warm welcome to all our viewers today. It's Alphabet Investment's very first podcast. I'm Pranav Mehta from Alphabet Investment, and today we have founder and CEO Mr. Pratik Dodia with us. So the idea of these podcasts is very simple. It's to help our investors understand the market slightly better and to discuss investment opportunities. So, Pratik, a 10 plus year journey with Alphabet Investment, if you can take us through the journey and what milestones you've seen along the way.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you and welcome to all our viewers for our very first podcast. So, idea of this podcast is to share our experience, knowledge, and views on the market and investments. What we believe helps investor to create or create wealth and manage their investments better. So, just to talk to you, of Alphabet journey for last 10 years. So, Alphabet started in 2014. It's been a wonderful journey. I would say, where Alphabet is, I can only say we have been lucky and we want to thank to all our investors as well as the entire Alphabet team, for being with us through this entire journey. What Alphabet tries to focus is not only about investment is not only about creating returns, it's about managing risk and fulfilling your investment goals. We have seen a lot of time investors only focus on return, which is, they want to discuss only return, but they forget the other side of it is, which is managing risk. So it's very important to one has to look at his own risk profile, his return expectation, and then plan his investment. That's where Alphabet actually stands differently from the market, and when we look at creating portfolios or helping our investors manage their investments.
Right. So, Pratik, I think you've already touched upon it, but if you can elaborate a bit more. In terms of clients always say equities, commodities, gold, and especially looking at today, gold prices soaring up, what would you recommend or what would you rather tell our viewers as to how they should invest or what they should do?
Yeah. So, especially we have seen last five or about from last 10 years journey, especially last 5 years have been very exciting journey where we have seen a lot of new investors coming to the market, especially after demonetization, GST, and COVID. Where a lot of financial investments have gone up substantially from the investors, new investors coming in form of whether doing SIPs or investing into various asset classes. But one thing what we have seen with this new generation or the Gen Z, what they call themselves, what they try to do is, FOMO investing. There's a lot of return chasing what people do. They want to invest in what is recently we call it recency bias in terms of investment behavior. So people tend to invest in investments which have performed well in the recent time. What we firmly believe as Alphabet is that one should focus on their asset allocation depending upon their risk profile. So it's not that a asset class will tend to do well because it's done well in last 3 months. Every asset classes have cycles. So classic example in election last year we had general election 24. That's when we felt equity markets peaked out. But looking at last 1 year return, if people would have invested in equity, we know what has happened in next 12 months. Equity has underperformed, and what has happened is gold and silver has done well in last 1 year. Same thing is today. If you look at last 1 year return of gold and silver and you invest in gold and silver, then either that's a mistake which one should avoid. Focus on creating asset allocation, right portfolio depending upon your goals, your risk requirement, return requirement, and accordingly plan your investment. So we always recommend our client to diversify investment and look at where the opportunity remains in terms of asset class which has underperformed and we feel from a price point of view, it's a value at a investment today. So we firmly believe in asset allocation of equity, gold, and silver, and not invest in a single asset class.
So, continuing on with Alphabet's 10-year growth journey and growth trajectory, we've also been early movers and gotten our offices in Gift City. With especially considering since we have a lot of NRI investors and we specialize in investments in India with our NRIs. So, just if you can tell us a little bit more on Gift City and how Gift City helps our NRIs to invest in India.
Yeah, very interesting. So, we have now clients across more than 20 plus countries, So, actually, that's one of the main reason. And we, from day one, we have been focusing on NRI clients, So that's where we were the early movers, or we were the early ones to set up a Gift City office, One thing what I've always done is followed our leader, So, what Mr. Modi did in terms of, going out and talking to, various NRI communities, we have also gone and actually approach various, NRI clients across various countries. That's why today we are having the highest presence probably among the distributor community in terms of NRI clients, with more than 20 plus countries, more than 500 families, across various countries and geographies. That is why Gift City becomes a very important jurisdiction for investment for them. Let me explain you in twofold, So today, what was happening is a lot of NRIs. So there are two sorts of NRIs, what we refer here. One is NRIs, people from India who have gone and are working abroad, are people with Indian passport. And second NRIs are people who are OCI with a foreign passport, So especially people who had Indian passport, it was easy for them to always route was open of the NRI investments via India for them. But now with Gift City opening up, a lot of people who don't have OCI or PIO card can look at investing via Gift City option, with the foreign passport, So that opens up the new market for all the investors who are looking to invest in India, who don't have even Indian passport or OCI or PAN card, they can still access Indian markets via Gift City, which they were able to access, but that the investment options were limited through Mauritius and other jurisdiction. But now with Gift City, we have very exciting investment opportunities which are available to the investor, and more importantly, via Gift City, some of the investments are capital gain tax free,
Oh, that's certainly interesting. So, ease of access to the Indian markets, tax-free in terms of certain
Sure.
investments. And I also believe the documentation and everything's much more simplified.
Absolutely. So, Gift City has this threefold, advantages compared to any other jurisdiction or, investor coming as a NRI. Today, one investing via Gift City does not need to necessarily open a bank account. Most important thing. Second thing, they don't have to go off hassle through, filing returns or income tax return. And third and most important, they don't need a PAN card or Indian ID proof, or so paperwork or onboarding of the client, along with no bank account opening, no income tax return filing, all those hassles are taken away, So Gift City is definitely a win-win situation for the NRI and offshore investors.
So, just continuing on, very interesting insights. So, are there options for Indian investors as well, or is it just for the NRIs? And if you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, so basically, Gift City, main objective of Gift City is to attract foreign or the NRI investors into India. So obviously, there are a lot of multiple investment option or opportunities available for NRI and offshore investors to invest in India. So one is obviously these are all alternate investment fund, AIF, CAT1, CAT2, CAT3. But there are best investment options are, GIFT City Mutual Fund of Fund. They are under Cat 3. There's no capital gain tax if you invest under fund of fund mutual fund, via GIFT City. So investors does not have to pay any capital gain tax for mutual fund of fund under GIFT City. So that's a 12.5 straight capital gain tax on a long-term basis saving for the investor. There's no capital gain tax, no short-term, no long-term capital gain tax. Also, some of the hedge funds, which are the long short funds, the hedge portfolio and the equity is not taxed in GIFT City, unlike where in India it's taxed at 42%. So definitely that's one more area which NRI can and should look at it from a investment point of view. So definitely my top picks are mutual fund of fund, from a capital gain and tax advantage point of view. There's no capital gain tax. It's a huge relief or benefit what NRI or offshore investor has, of paying no capital gain tax. They are taxed in their home country. So at a source level, fund does not deduct any tax. They are taxed as per the home country. If they are in a country or a jurisdiction where there is no capital gain tax, then they don't end up paying any capital gain tax on their return. As you are aware, there is LRS scheme which is available to Indian investors to invest abroad. But a lot of mutual funds now exhausting their limits. Investors are left with very few options. But with GIFT City opening up, through LRS, one can invest up to 250,000 US dollar. So, one can look at GIFT City outbound funds, which are funds which are investing internationally. We have got quite a few of funds which have now come out with outbound funds, which are investing in international market. It helps Indian investors to diversify the portfolio.
Right.
B, it's important if you are planning to send your kids abroad for education. Because what happens is, as we know, every year or last 1 year, what we have seen is rupee depreciates significantly against dollar. So rupee depreciation is something which keeps on happening every year or 2 year. So if one is looking for to make payment or fees in dollar, it makes a lot more sense to diversify investments and invest in dollar through GIFT City and keep their investments. Use this LRS limit to diversify the investments and keep that some portfolio outside from a diversification point of view, and it does not hit their pocket when the rupee depreciation happens in terms of paying the fees or expense. So these are two areas, and LRS is. I'm very excited about GIFT City outbound fund and the inbound fund, both for NRI investors and the Indian investors. So inbound fund is for NRI investors and outbound is for Indian investor through LRS option.
Thank you, Prateek, for those wonderful insights. I think our investors and our viewers have learned a lot more today. Viewers, thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions that you'd like us to take up on future podcasts, please email us or write them in the comment section, and we'd be more than happy to get you some answers on the next podcast.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Pranav. Thank you, viewers, for viewing our podcast, and looking forward to more interactions in future. Yeah. Thank you.